Good morning, Tom. Having a tough day, huh? Must be if I'm talking to myself.
Hey, that's one of me's. Or maybe a clone of mine.
You're not gonna like what I have to say next.
Please don't tell me. Did they cancel this show?
No, not that.
Then did they cancel that pre-production movie I'm making right now?
No, not that either.
Then what?
No, not that.
What?
It's not that either. Well, at this point in time in the video, I assume you probably would have asked all your stupid questions, and I can say, no, it's none of the things that you said. It's much worse. Your show isn't in jeopardy. Matter of fact, you might just be. There's a new game out developed by Arkane Studios that's kind of like System Shock. We don't know, but you're gonna have to play it.
Well, yeah, it is developed by a bunch of ex-Looking Glass Studio developers.
But that's not the issue. When you play the game, there's going to be small little critters that can mask around and be any sort of object in the environment. Maybe even the cup you're drinking right now, if you're drinking the cup, assuming you are. Yeah, it can be pretty deadly, so I'd worry about that.
Ha! Critter Schmitter. I wouldn't worry about it. Wait a minute. I don't remember 2 months. Yeah! Well, if you hadn't realized by now, today we're going to take a look at Arkane Studios' Prey. Prey is a first-person shooter RPG hybrid that takes place in the troubling isolation of Talos 1, a space station used by the top scientists of the world to study various things. You take the place of Morgan Yu, a man or woman who suddenly awakens to the chaos of an alien species known as the Typhon. Typhon are like this weird ethereal life form that sort of assimilates anything that it comes into contact with. Whether it be the small and jittery mimics that literally mimic any object in the environment, or the larger phantoms that absorb the essence of people and turn them into horrific specters. At this point, you're given the task of ending the Typhon menace, once and for all. I'm not gonna lie, I've been through the same scenario numerous times, through countless games, some done like 18 years ago. Prey seems to be the latest iteration of waking up in a society post-collapse and you gotta go around and pick up the pieces. For instance, in the game that probably influenced Prey the most, System Shock 1 and 2 were in a very similar predicament. For those that don't know, in System Shock 2, you take the role of the soldier and you have to defeat the Many, which is an enemy that assimilates itself in the most Cronenbergian / body horror ways. Ugh, it's all goopy and gross. Just take a look at the cyborg midwife over here.
It hurts. I'll make you stop it.
Ugh. So when it comes to the general plot and story of the game, Prey seems to have, kind of been done before. We got the classic looking through emails, listening to various audio logs, and a few Looking Glass recordings. By the way, I absolutely love that they gave it a little nod to developers past. Which, if you didn't know, Looking Glass Studios is a development studio that developed such classics as Ultima Underworld, The Stygian Abyss, and its sequel, Labyrinth of Worlds, Thief, The Dark Project, and its sequel, Thief 2, The Metal Age, and of course, System Shock 1 and System Shock 2. And I'm sorry that I'll probably be coming back to these games of Looking Glass, especially System Shock 2, but you honestly see a lot of aspect from those games in all of Arkane's work. but with good reason, since a lot of the guys at Arkane are ex-Looking Glass devs. Now, how Prey goes around doing its audio logs and emails is a little bit different. This time around, they actually have something really positive to say about the world. Usually in these types of games, the audio logs portray the slow descent of society like Rapture or Columbia, but in Talos 1 the damage happened relatively recently. Which means that apart from when the shit hits the fan, life wasn't too shabby in Talos 1. Sure, there might have been some corporate meddling here and there that we're all used to, but Prey tends to escape from that. Now, the story of Prey I find kind of generic, or at least, done before. But the way that Arkane developed the world is wholly interesting. The world that Prey inhabits asks a simple question, and that is, what if John F. Kennedy was never assassinated and doubled down on the space race? The answer you get is that in the year 2035 you have a moon base, a space station so impossibly grand to our standards, and best of all, a return to the architectural style of Art Deco. There's snippets of exposition here and there that clue you into the larger world, and one that honestly has some pretty neat implications. Out there is a world where the Soviet Union never fell, a world where the United States is a damn space elevator, and one where I could throw those stupid damn milk chocolates you get for Easter into a recycler and it turns into something useful, like sweet tea or bullets. It kind of makes you think, like, why didn't we get a story about something else in this world instead of aliens are going around, you gotta run it amok and you gotta clean it up.
And you gotta help us.
Because that's for nerds, Tom. Nobody likes your dumb nerd crap.
How would you know to speak at this exact moment?
Hey, I don't have to explain it, I'm just a dumb video.
One thing that Arkane got right with Talos 1 is that the station, while a fantastical sci-fi setting, it definitely feels like a place that could exist in reality. The station honestly feels lived in, which is a term I usually don't like to throw around too much, because usually when people say a world feels lived in, it usually means it's just full of junk. Which isn't to say that there isn't any junk lying around. Matter of fact, there's tons of it. Except this time, it actually suits a purpose in the game. The main resource management aspect of the game comes from two stations you'll frequently encounter throughout Talos 1, those being the Recycler and the Fabricator. The Recycler takes all of your junk items and all of your useful items if you so wish and breaks them down to the most basic of building blocks, such as organic materials, exotic fibers, and so on. From these building blocks, you can go to a fabricator, and if you got the blueprints, you can build it. That means guns, ammo, medkits, and the much desired neuro mods are available as long as you got the right blueprints. Honestly, I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite resource management mechanics of games lately. It takes all of the annoying sort of complexity of other games and just simplifies it down to really just basic building blocks that are relevant. Seriously, you take your stupid crap, you throw it in the recycler majigger thing, and bloop, comes out as useful crap to, well, use. And on top of that, if you're too lazy to do that, you can just go on and throw a recycler grenade. Basically, with this baby, you just throw it into the room and everything in it, including yourself if you're too close, will get sucked up and turned into fabrication materials. Which is gonna come in handy against your plight against the Typhon. As said earlier, the Typhon are an assimilating organism that come from the far reaches of space. What are they here for? Why did they turn the dead into beastly phantoms? Why are you assimilating my Moon Man mug, man? We'll never know. Practically every enemy in the game that isn't a machine will be Typhon, so you better get real cozy with them since you'll see them everywhere. The Typhon come in many flavors, varying from small little critters to man-sized phantoms to even larger monstrosities like the Telepath. But the most common enemy, also the most annoying, are the Mimics. Mimics you'll find everywhere on Talos 1, usually scurrying and hiding within plain sight by, mimicking common objects around the station, such as office chairs, lamps, and my Moon Man mug. These critters aren't too tough and will usually go down in a few hits from the magnificent pipe wrench, but it doesn't mean you'll be on the edge of your seat of the first little bit. At first, you'll always tend to double check objects and make sure that they aren't going to jump out and spook you, but after a while, it kinda gets a little annoying. See, whenever a mimic attacks you from its object phase, they'll always play an obnoxious jump scare sound effect to try and spook you when you don't notice one. Thing is, anytime you get near one, it'll make out this boo sound effect every time you do it, even when you know it's there. So if you see one transform into a mug across the room and you ready your wrench to whack it, it's still gonna do the stupid sound. So of course, after a while you get used to it, and after that you get annoyed by it. Luckily, after you get a pistol, you can shoot mimics from far away, which will usually give you a sneak attack bonus, and best of all, no stupid jump scare noise. As I've said earlier, the Typhon Phantom is when one of the Typhon Reavers changed the molecular structure of a person into, well, a phantom. When you encounter one for the first time, you'll quickly find out that these guys don't mess around, especially in their thermal, ethereal, and voltaic forms. And when I mean these guys don't mess around, these guys don't mess around. Up until you get really kind of later in the game, your weapons won't really do much damage. Now if you're going to play as some of the more psionic builds, then it might not matter much to you, but my first time playing, I went through a clean, non-Typhon power playthrough. Playing that way, while more rewarding, increased the difficulty significantly, to almost an annoying degree by the end of the game. Unless you had insane amounts of glue cannon and weapon combos, most fights with anything that isn't just a Typhon mimic will eat up your ammo, therefore your resources. While I do understand that we're going to be fighting an extraterrestrial enemy that might be protected against this stuff, but when you have stuff like a shotgun or a laser caster that doesn't have enough oomph, it's just really kind of disappointing. There's a few flavor of powers for the Typhon. Some basically give you buffs, others send debuffs over at your enemies, and some give you damage abilities, and my favorite of all is the one that lets you transform into a monk. Now the two big negatives that come with Typhon powers are the fact that the turrets will become your enemy as more and more Typhon DNA is in your system, and the other one is that it could affect which type of ending you get, usually leaning on the bad end. Now most of the powers are pretty rudimentary things, but the powers that we're really interested in are the mimic powers. Basically just about any object you can turn into to get away from an enemy Typhon, or later on the game to take over and fight them. While I didn't play the entire game as something with Typhon powers, you could really kind of tell that the game was developed for it. There's tons of areas that would have been easy to go through if I could just turn into a packet of ramen and hop my way about or damage a ton of enemies. Now thankfully there are some options to help you along the way if you opt out of using the Typhon abilities, some of which I absolutely love. For one, you straight up get a Nerf gun that you can use to help you open doors and touchscreens. The first application of the Nerf gun in opening a door seemed really obvious, and it was so wholly satisfying to do. After that, I kinda felt pretty thug smashing windows and just using the little Nerf gun to shoot a door and open it and then take all the stuff and recycle it down for bullets. The most surprising of which is when I shot the Nerf gun at a computer monitor and it interacted with it. Eventually I got so good at unlocking things that I usually just see if the mighty Nerf gun could open the door. If not, then go look for that damn key card. But it's these little details that Prey gets right that makes it feel special at times. Just the fact that just about anything in this game has a purpose that relates to gameplay is pretty great. One big example is just the layout of Talos 1. For some reason it just seems like a place that would function in reality, and the only other place that I can think of that rivals it is the Sevastopol from Alien Isolation. All throughout the station there are airlocks that will allow you to go outside into space and do a variety of activities such as look for dead crewmen, investigate weird anomalies, and fast travel in a sense. Usually it's a lot easier to go outside the station and zip all the way down to life support, or zoom all the way up to the arboretorium. Any critical place in the station really is at your disposal. I really love the moments where you go and wander through space. You're just floating there, and it's so calming. Just floating into the great beyond. Doesn't help that floating in space also has a great tune to carry you through. And speaking about tunes, Prey has a really decent soundtrack and one that is better than it has any right to be, really. Now the tunes that you're hearing might sound a little familiar, and it should, since it comes from resident Bethesda Softworks composer aficionado Mick Gordon, aka the guy who composed the excellent soundtrack for Doom and Wolfenstein: The New Order. The tunes for Prey follow along a more synthy and horror path, with a lot of tracks trying to invoke wonder, curiosity, but also fear of the unknown and what truly lies in the cosmos. It's a shame that the soundtrack doesn't work in conjunction with the game sometime. For some reason, a lot of the sound bits won't play at the appropriate moments. Like there'll be a theater or a bar playing some music, but the instant you leave the room, the music just stops. Now usually in these sort of games, the music would get quieter and quieter until you don't even notice that it's gone, but in Prey, it just stops. Here's an example. Now, just before I start this scenario, this thing has been patched out of the latest patch, so the sound design actually kind of works.
Hey, how's it going, dude?
Hey, it's Video Tom from the video.
That's right, baby. You can't start the party without me. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah! Let me get this one. Oh no! I don't know how to use a gun now, suddenly. Power stroke.
Don't worry. I got this. See? It's all they need is a nice, good old whack.
So, why are you here?
Well, I'm just here to see if you're alive.
Wait, so you weren't a pre-recorded message?
Nah, that was all live. I was just trying to mess with you.
Oh, okay. So what are you gonna do now?
Well, we got a whole lot of mimics to kill, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow. Looks like we got a lot of killing mimics to do.
Later, in the void.
Oh man. Oh, what a fight. And I didn't get any single blood in me. Oh, thank you, Makarov.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Well, looks like we killed all the mimics. Good thing, too. Our goddamn nuisance.
What did you think of it?
Well, to sum it up, it's not so bad. Prey might not be the most interesting game to come out to 2017, and honestly, after playing through the game I last reviewed, I don't think anything will really come close this year. Playing through the game, I can tell that there's a lot of work and effort put into the game, but I can't escape the feeling that I've been there and done that, and I did it ages ago with the old Looking Glass games. But that doesn't mean that Prey is a bad game, and honestly, it's far from it. It just means that someone who has played a lot of the games Prey and really all Arkane games are inspired by, I've had more fun with others. That being said, if you haven't played System Shock or Thief, I would definitely take a look at Arkane's Prey. With that, I'm gonna give it a nice solid 8 out of 10. You know, it's not the most inspiring game in the world, it's not the newest thing, but at least it's a whole hell of a lot better than Dishonored 2. And that's saying a lot. But what are we going to do from here? Probably the next game. When does it come out? Wow. Knowing this review schedule, probably last week. What? You mean we're late? Well, I mean, we've always kind of been late and sporadic. Well then, I guess this is Tom the Chosen One, and I'm gonna go over and napalm Charlie's village, commit some heinous war crime. I'll see you guys next time.